All right. All right. Let's try that again without the echo. Hey there, and welcome to the Xamarin Code Hour. This is the 13th episode, and if you're watching live, you just got to enjoy the benefits of an echo because I had the browser open. But if you're watching it recorded, there's nothing to see here. So this is the episode where we are going to get into Xamarin.Forms Embedding, and this is a really exciting technology because it just came out. It was possible before, but it has been made considerably easier with the release of Xamarin.Forms 2.5, which was just released. And originally this was going to be part of Xamarin.Forms 3, but it is now available to be used today without having to go to an alpha or beta build, which is fantastic. So what is it? This is, up until today's episode, we've been building everything with Xamarin Classic. And Xamarin Classic is great for giving you great level of customizability on the Android and on the iOS side of things. But if you want to write a single view and have that shared between both Android and iOS side of things, that's not something you're able to get with Classic Xamarin. So that's where Xamarin.Forms comes in. And I talked about this a little bit in episode maybe 9 or 8, where I did a comparison of Xamarin to Ionic. It was an Ionic versus Xamarin comparison, and I got a lot more into depth on what Xamarin Classic is and Xamarin.Forms is. So if you get a chance, go back and watch that episode. I think it was one of my better ones. But tonight is going to be even better than that, because we're going to start writing a single view in Xamarin.Forms, but we're going to share it back out into the classic iOS and Android applications that we've written to date. And the benefit is that you only write one view. The downside is you have a little bit less customizability when you want to make iOS look more iOS-y or Android look more Android-y, but you can still do it. There's lots of things, and Xamarin.Forms, if you used it like a year ago or 2 years ago, it has come a long way. They just keep making it better and better and more customizable. So that is cool. And what I think where we're at today with the mobile cap that we've been building up until episode 13 here is we've got a great platform to be able to customize and also use Xamarin.Forms. So you don't just have to do file new Xamarin.Forms project and be stuck 100% in Xamarin.Forms, and you don't just have to be, file new Android and iOS project and be stuck in Classic Xamarin. After tonight's episode, we're going to be in this wonderful world where we have the ability to jump in and out of the various different how much sharing versus how much customizability we want. And so I think we've got a very nice architecture. So, without further ado, I think it is time to look at some code. By the way, last episode I had some problems connecting to my other machine and having it show in iOS. Well, we'll see if we have those problems again tonight. But I did a little something different tonight, and that is I connected an Ethernet cable directly from my PC to my Mac, which sometimes makes things a lot better on the connection side. Even though they're both connected to the same Wi-Fi network, sometimes the networking just doesn't work really well, and that was a problem I was having earlier, and so this is just a thing that you can do if you're doing Xamarin development. It might make your life a little bit easier. I think it has made my life a little bit easier. So, let's just take a look at Unleashing. This is a blog post that was just released in June. So earlier, and they were talking about Xamarin.Forms 3.0 in this blog post, and it's worth just glancing over here. Unleashed, and we can do a search for Unleashed Embedding Xamarin.Forms. I'll put it in the show notes. But they're going to show us that the trick to getting this to work is basically they've added an extension method. Here it is. This is the extension method that they've added to iOS. I should make that bigger. There we go. So they're instantiating a new Xamarin.Forms page, and then they're just on the iOS side saying create view controller, and that's turning the Xamarin.Forms page into a view controller for iOS, and they can use a similar extension method in Android called create fragment, I think. Yeah, create fragment. Well, anyway, yeah, so there's two options here. There's a create fragment and there's a create framework element, which will turn a framework element, but we need a fragment. We'll see this later, and fragments are probably generally going to be a better option. And the only other thing that we're going to have to do to get this to work is we have to call forms. Oh, there it is. We have to call forms.init. So this blog post basically could be summarized down to about 3 things that you need to know. But these are the 3 things we need to do. And so let's go ahead and do it. And let's start with iOS, because why not take a risk? It's the thing that was working poorly last episode, and it's going to work fantastic this episode. Before we even do that, we do need a Xamarin.Forms page. And one of the things that's interesting about Xamarin.Forms is it needs a UI language, right? And Android, we're using AXML files. And on iOS, we can either use storyboards, or what we chose to use thus far has been doing everything in code. And Xamarin.Forms, the traditional UI language, is XAML, XAML, which is originally a design language developed by Microsoft, maybe for Silverlight, and then it was refined for UWP apps, which are your Xbox, your Windows Phone, your HoloLens. If you want to write a HoloLens app or a Windows 10 app, you use this XAML design language. And if you're used to Android, you'll discover that it's actually kind of similar to AXML files in Android. Right, so let's create one. To do that, this brings up, I guess the first place is where do we put it? And this brings up an architectural question. Some people probably would feel pretty strongly that there should be an additional project to keep all of your views in, to keep your views separate from your view models. They would find that a little cleaner. I don't personally care that much. As long as they're in separate folders, I'm happy. So there are probably people screaming at me right now. In fact, I should check the, oh yeah, no one's screamed yet, at least on the live show. So all right, so we're going to create a new folder here called views. And I think what we're trying to do is simulate in the Windows calculator. Right? To date, we've got something that looks similar to the standard calculator. And I think it would be very nice for us to flush out the currency calculator over here. So we can see that $8 is 6.76 euros. And when we flush that out in Xamarin.Forms, we'll also get a feeling for how to do networking, which will be a future episode. Believe it or not, we've made 13 episodes now and not gotten into networking. Well, that'll still be, there's still plenty to do and talk about. All right. We've created a views folder, and well, we do need to reference Xamarin.Forms, so let's do that. We're going to add a NuGet package reference, and I'm going to search for Xamarin.Forms. This is 2.5.0.121.934. This was released November 28th. And I believe it is 2.5. Any 2.5, any 2.5 or above should give you what we're going to need today. So that's just in our portable class library, which is shared by both iOS and Android. And in here, and at some point in a future episode, we're also going to update this from a portable class library to a .NET standard library, but that involves a whole nother discussion for a whole nother time. For now, we want a, we do Xamarin.Forms. We can just do forms. We want a content page. Yeah, there we go. Content page, and you'll see it's .xaml. It's going to give us a XAML file, and when we hit go, it's also going to give us a code behind file. And the quick and dirty way of doing XAML Xamarin.Forms or Xamarin development in general is to write code in the code behind, but we're going to try to use the MVVM approach that we have talked about in a previous episode, episode 4 or something like that, I think. So let's call this the currency view, currency page view, currency view, I don't know. Let's call it the currency view. And right out of the box, we get a content page. And if you're not familiar with XAML, this right here is the thing that you're inheriting from. So if I go into the code behind right now, the code behind will say, I'm inheriting from a content page, and ReSharper is right off the bat saying, hey, you don't need to specify content page here because you've actually specified it over here. And that's because this XAML file gets compiled down to code behind that is then combined with this code behind, and that's why the keyword partial is there. And you'll see that the other side of this partial class here is actually in the obj folder, and it happens at compile time, particularly when you have the compile XAML compilation options. All right, this is a little too much detail. Let's just dig in here. We have content page.content. I don't think that's strictly necessary, but we'll leave it for now. And then a stack layout is similar to an Android stack panel, I think. Is that right? Stack panel? In any event, this just takes a whole list of elements and stacks them down below each other, or if the orientation is horizontal, it stacks them over to the right. And now we're just putting a single thing in there. It's a label. It's called Welcome to Xamarin Forms, and some other stuff. Let's just see if we can get that displayed in iOS to get started. To do that, we need to follow the advice in the blog post, and I guess what we want is when we open up the menu and click currency, and that side menu, we just did that in the last episode, and that was in a class called Menu View Controller. And the Menu View Controller was responsible for everything on the left-hand side there and handling what to do. So if we go into the Menu View Controller, here is our Menu View Controller, and we're on row selected. That's when you tap something. Then we were trying to get page from index. So we said at the 0th, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd position, we're passing that in, and we'll get a view controller back. So this is the magic method we want right here. If you've selected the 0th, the first item in the table, then we just return a standard calculator view controller, and that's our Xamarin.iOS specific view controller that we've written. Now we created a throwaway one here, but what we want to do is we want to new up our currency view, and ReSharper is automatically saying, do we want to import that? Yes, we do. It doesn't require any parameters to instantiate, which is really nice. And then I believe we can just say dot, I already forgot what it was. Hang on. Dot view controller, create view controller, dot create view controller. Oh, right, sure. And that's right. Who's with me? Why did that fail? That failed because we haven't added a reference into the iOS project yet to Xamarin Forms. So we need to go and add a reference. Now, really important to make sure that the version of Xamarin Forms matches across all your projects. So you could go into the, see, my initial impression is probably, instincts are probably wrong here. I'm just going into the NuGet package manager for the project, but probably the safer thing to do in this case would be to go to the NuGet package manager for the entire solution. So we're going to go to the NuGet package manager for the solution, and installed And this way, when we do it this way, we ensure that we've got the same version everywhere, and we might as well just go ahead and add it to Android and iOS 2.5.1. Yep, that'll be right. Sure, we accept. What was that? I just signed my, I think I just signed my kids' futures away. I think that was what that was asking me to do. All right, so we're, oh, it already exists in packages. Yep, sure, it will already exist in packages because we installed it previously for one of our other, for the PCL, for the Portable Class Library project. And so when we're adding it, it's noticing that it's already in the root directory /packages. That's the way NuGet works. It installs everything by default into the root, even if it's in a project, so other projects can share. And that's why this is going super fast, right? I guess it's, well, it's actually taking a little bit longer because it needs to download. There are specific versions of NuGet for iOS and Android, so it is doing a full different download than the download we did for the PCL. And so there's different bits that it's needing to pull down. So once this finishes, we will have created a view. We will have converted that view. We've instantiated it, converted it into a view controller, and there's only one piece of code that we're missing after that, and that is to initialize Xamarin.Forms, and that's called forms.init. One guess where the right place to do that is in iOS? That would be in the AppDelegate. So the next thing we'll do is, now that this is finished, we're going to jump into the AppDelegate. Well, first of all, oh, nice, that just worked. And that create view controller is specified in two places, and I forget which one we want, but the one that has iOS in the name sounds like a good one. Let's just see if that works. And we're going to instantiate that. It's the currency view. Return currency view. And maybe we'll be deleting this currency calculator view controller, which actually didn't really do anything, I think. All right, we just made a big red page. Let's just delete that. We didn't want that. All right, and the last thing we need to do is go into the AppDelegate, like I was just saying, and I don't think it really matters so much where we do this, but somewhere we have to do forms, Xamarin.Forms.init, and that is the magic. That's all that we need to do. And now when I hit F5 and run this, I'm going to wait for about 2 hours while this thing compiles and runs. But the good news is that this time, because the computers are connected to each other directly via an Ethernet cable, this is going to go much faster than it ever has, and it's much more likely to succeed. So that's good. And it turned orange. That's good. The simulator has been started. Wow, that was fast. I wasn't expecting that. Ooh, look at that. Look at our pretty 2 plus 5 is 7. Very nice. And if you missed last week's episode, totally hacked in the menu system because I was in a hurry, needed to finish on time, and the CE button is what opens up the menu. Yeah, we need to put in, what we really need to do is we need to put in a view controller, a UI view controller, and I think most iOS people would expect to see up in a UI view controller maybe the name of the page and a menu button. That would be the correct place to do it, and I'd like to maybe do that at the end of this episode if we have time. In the meantime, I'm going to click anything other than the very first item here. I'm going to click Programmer, and oh, hey, can't say I was expecting that to work. And we have Xamarin.Forms. That is good enough for a commit. We have, whoa, that was a lot more changes than I was expecting. All right, we have Xamarin forms working in iOS. Let's just skim over our changes here. Actually, I'm going to start a thing that I should have started before the show. And it probably doesn't matter, but I've gotten in this habit of running JMotion as an administrator, and it just makes life easier. It's far more likely to work, I've discovered. Let's start up an API 25 device. Let's go modern. All right, while that's going, so we went into the CS proj for mobile calc would be our portable class library. We added references to a currency view, made a new page called currency view. We added a bunch of references to XamarinForms, XamarinForms Core, XamarinForms Platform, XamarinForms XAML. Sure, sounds good. And then we added the reference to XamarinForms in the packages config, which is the list of NuGet packages. Then we did the same thing in Android. We made a reference to a forms view group.dll. I'm not sure what that is, but I guess that's a XamarinForms ism. XamarinForms Android.support. Oh, we updated the support libraries. That's interesting and unexpected, but all right, that's fine. Made a reference to XamarinForms, looks good. We did a lot of support library updates. Fine, I guess. Yep, there we go. We added more support stuff. That's fine, I guess. Media router. I guess XamarinForms needs a lot of these support libraries to be updated. It needs more support libraries. That makes sense. How's that running? Yep. Okay. Then in our AppDelegate, we talked about that's the startup place for all of iOS. We called Forms Init. And in the iOS project, we also referenced XamarinForms. Oh, yes, we deleted our currency calculator view controller. That's true. And in our packages config for iOS, oh yeah, we were doing iOS and Android. In our menu view controller, that was the place on the left-hand side. We created the view controller and returned it, the XamarinForms view controller, and we deleted the calculator currency view, and we created a currency view XAML, which did nothing other than that was our page that we're going to share between iOS and Android. It just says welcome to XamarinForms and some empty code behind. That looks good to me. But this isn't much good unless we can get it to also work in Android, right? Whew. Nothing like waiting a very long time for something to run. All right, so we need to do something very similar on the Android side of things. We need to go into, first of all, Android is our startup project, and we need to go into the, well, what is the place that starts up in Android? I forget. I think we have the main drawer activity. That is the activity that starts everything. And there is probably a really good place, probably not in the constructor, but maybe in onCreate. That sounds like a good place to do it. That is forms, yeah, forms.init. It wants a activity context. Well, we could probably do this. And saved instance state. That should work because all activities are context objects. So that's why this works here in Android. And whew, our Android did start up, it seems, I think. Did that start up? Oh, there we go. Now it looks started up. Okay. So we've done a forms.init, and the next thing that we have to do is we have to find the place where the left-hand menu gets selected, and that's part of the main drawer activity too, I believe. And that will be, let's see, no, it's in the, okay, so there's the page adapter, which is the list, that's the adapter for the scrolly thing on the left-hand side. Scrolly thing is a technical term. And then I believe we did this kind of weird eye on item click listener. Not wild about it, but I think we required that to be created when you create the page adapter. So back over here in the main drawer activity, we're going to instantiate the page adapter. So somewhere we should see new page adapter. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I hate seeing multiple nested calls like that. I just find it really easy to be able to set a breakpoint there and see what my page adapter is. So, all right, little refactoring for you there. And oh, we passed in this as the thing which responds. So the main drawer activity should have a method in it called, wait for it, unclick. Aha, select item. All right, been a while since I've been in this code, and it probably has for you as well. And so here we get the fragment, and that's the main code we need. We're getting a fragment. The currency calculator view, we're not going to do that anymore. In fact, we're going to probably delete that currency calculator view. I bet it doesn't do much of anything. And so here we're going to new up a CURRENC currency view in mobilecalc.views. And I wish we'd call that mobilecalc.pcl or .shared or something. It's going to bug me. New currency view, yes, dot create fragment. Look at that. They give us a create fragment and a create support fragment. We're doing everything with support library so that it works on older Android devices, and so we want to create a support fragment. That's nice. That's nice they did that. Oh, and it wants a context object. So this is static. So since this is a static method, I think we're going to need to ask for a context object like that, and that. So now we're just returning it. Now we still have to pass in, well, we still have to pass in a context object, and like we did last time, we ought to be able to do with this, right? Because this is an activity, and activity is a context. Boom, there you go. All right, let's give this a try. So I want to run this on my JMotion Nexus 5X API 25. And I'm going to hit F5 to do it. All right, to do. Don't use the position. We need to do that at some point. We're halfway through tonight's show, and I think we're going to definitely accomplish getting a view, running it on both iOS and running it on Android. We're going to instantiate, turn it into a fragment on the Android side of things. We're going to instantiate it and turn it into a view controller on the iOS side of things. And the beauty of this is, if this works, we'll start being able to make changes to one place and have that one place shared out to iOS and Android. And if we so choose, sorry, I'm losing frames because I'm compiling and it's using up a lot of CPU. But the dream is that we could also potentially have a UWP client and ship this out to, because XamarinForms works on Windows too, we could have a XamarinForms client going out to Windows 10, and now, very soon, if it's not today, it's very soon, there'll be a XamarinForms client for Mac. So you could potentially have one app being able to push out to iOS and Android and Windows 10 and Mac OS. How cool is that? And not just Windows 10, right? Because if it's a UWP app, you can also then publish that out to Raspberry Pis, and you can publish that out to HoloLens, and you can publish that out to HoloLens, Raspberry Pi, and Xbox. So that's pretty cool. All right, we have a white screen. This is very exciting. And any moment now, any moment, this is going to pop up with a calculator. Your application may be doing too much work on its... Oh, hey, there we go. Yes. I just had to be a little more patient. All right, so we're going to pop open that menu. Boy, that looks nice. And I'm going to select a programmer. Cross your fingers. Woohoo! Welcome to Xamarin.Forms. Fantastic. All right. Good stuff. Xamarin.Forms is running on Android too. And that's worth 2 exclamation points, I would say. Oh, let's get rid of this currency calculator view. Didn't want it anyway. And then as part of that, we'll have to get rid of the XAML file, which is the currency calculator fragment there. We will delete that. And I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you all commit and then refactor, or do you, like, as you're doing a self-review, that you go in and do the refactoring then and there? This might be a separate commit. I could go either way. Currency calculator fragment. By the way, what was that? Oh, don't double click on that. That was a terrible idea. What was I thinking? All I want to do is delete it. Yes, there we go. Whew. All right, saved it. And yeah, all right. So Xamarin.Forms is going to Android too, yay! So in order to do that, we deleted the currency calculator fragment and the currency calculator view, and we called forms.init in the onStart activity, and then we called, oh, that was a little refactoring we did. And then we called create support fragment, which required a context object as a parameter. So there we go. Now I'm going to push this up right away for anyone who's live viewing this and would like to tell me that I did it wrong, which I would welcome, I swear. Okay, so where do we go from here? There's so many different things. We could start fleshing out that page, or we could flesh out the menu in iOS that doesn't look very good, which is what I am tempted to do because that's bothering me. And we can give Xamarin.Forms a much more thorough going over in a dedicated episode. So let's do that. To do that, we're going to learn about view controllers. And view controllers on iOS are things which are responsible. They're containers. It's a type of view controller that's a container, and it allows you to push things onto a stack. It maintains a stack for you, and it also shows, it maintains a back stack, so you can click back and it'll pop things back off the stack, and that is a view controller, and that isn't something that we necessarily need for in iOS world, except it's sort of what you would expect. I think it's what an iOS user would expect. It's where they would expect the menu to be. So let's do that. And to do that, we need to create a new view controller, and we're going to do that in we've got the menu view controller here, and when you click the left-hand side, we want to, right, when you click on, when you show that first thing, you want a view controller. Do we want the view controller to be shared across all instances? Or do we want separate view controllers? I think we want separate view controllers. We want each page should have its own view controller because we're going to be popping things potentially onto the stack for each one of those, right? So when we click the 0th element on the left-hand side, we want to pop a view controller onto the stack and then pop our existing standard calculator view controller there, right? So that was in row selected, and get page from index, And so here, at this point in time, if row is equal to 0, return a standard calculator view controller. I think what we probably want to do is a standard. Maybe we should make a public class called a standard calculator navigation view controller. This is not uncommon for iOS names to get kind of long, but this might be a little longer than usual. This will be a UINavigationController. Right, and we're going to override the viewDidLoad. viewDidLoad. And when we do that, we're going to do a new standard calculator view controller. So we're going to instantiate that standard calculator view controller, and we're going to, I believe it's like push view controller. Yep, standard calculator view controller. What does it not like about that? There is no argument that corresponds. Oh, animated. Do we want it to animate in? I don't know. I think yes. Let's do, I think maybe no. Let's try yes and see what happens. Okay, so when we said here we wanted a standard calculator view controller, let's actually give it a standard calculator navigation view controller. And that ought to be all we need to get a little area bar up in the top where we can put in additional things. And okay, we are compiling. We should see this pop up in our iPhone 6s here shortly. And while that's running, I can't remember, I don't know, because I've got nothing better to do. I'm going to do a little bit of research. I think like live research. I put some time and energy into making sure that I had the first half of tonight's show working nicely, but I have to say I'm kind of winging it at this point. UI view controller button, add button to UI view controller status bar, I think. Adding a view to a not a status bar, adding a button to a UI view controller. Adding a UI table view, adding a UI view controller, make a button that goes to another view controller, subviews. Man, this is taking a long time. It is still building though. What is that top area called? The UI view controller's title area. Add a button. Title attribute. Programmatically add a UINavigationController. Adding a UI table view. Navigation buttons. Oh yeah, that's what it's called, navigation button. Add a navigation button to a UI view controller. Oh, here we go. Wow, this compilation took so little time last time. And now it's taking, oh, there we go, because I didn't, maybe it disconnected and reconnected. It's connected to Lee's MacBook Pro. Oh, it went back to 10.0.0.7, so it's actually using my network, my Wi-Fi network. Well, maybe it'll work. I'll give it a shot. I'm trying to add a refresh button to the top of the navigation controller. Yes, that's basically what we're trying to do. And here's how I'm trying to do it. Try doing it in viewDidLoad. Generally, you should do it after anything. Anyway, so we're going to go to okay, there should have been a title up there. Anyway, we're going to do navigation item.rightBar button equals. So that's kind of what the code is that we're going to look like. And if you spend a lot of time in mobile development and you spend a lot of time doing Xamarin, you're going to have to learn to read Objective-C. And so, in case this is weird to you, I should probably just tell you that when you see square brackets like this, that means it's the equivalent of doing a dot. So this is a static object on the static UI bar button item. We're calling .alloc, and then we're calling .initWithTitle. And the first parameter is this weird @ thing, and then the second parameters are all named. So the second and subsequent patterns, you're saying arguments, you're saying the style argument has this value, and the third one is called target and has this property, and so on and so forth. Anyway, there you go. There's a little refresher for anyone who's not familiar with reading Objective-C. So what surprised me is while this worked, I think we need to show view controller, show detail. Oops, let's just do this. Navigation item dot right bar button. So navigation bar, first of all, navigation bar hidden equals false. Oh, and we should give this guy a title. So in our standard view controller dot view did load this dot title equals standard. What is it called? Standard. It should be called standard. And this title will propagate up into the view controller. So each individual page can have a title, and the view controller knows how to reach down into its parent view controllers, child view controllers, and pull that out. So navigation bar hidden equals false, and then we wanted to go to navigation item dot right bar button item. Navigation bar dot right dot add. No, here we go. UI bar button item. So we do need to instantiate a UI bar button item. New UI bar button item, UI bar button system item dot action. Sure. Not so concerned about what that is yet. It's probably what the icon looks like, and hopefully we can find something that looks like a hamburger menu, as much as iOS tends to not like those. And so now we can say navigation bar dot right bar button item. Right navigation bar, hang on, navigation item. We should have a navigation item, there we go, dot right set right bar button item to UI bar button item. There's no argument that corresponds with a formal parameter animated. I don't know. I don't think we want it to animate in. Okay. Let's run that and see. Oops, that's JMotion again. Go away, JMotion. Come back, iPhone 6. And this one's going to launch much faster. You're going to see it's going to be amazing. Instantaneous launch. This usually is what I find. I find that the iOS simulator runs faster than any Android simulator, even the x86 emulators, even any physical devices. It's generally the fastest way to get feedback, short of the Xamarin Live Player. The Xamarin Live Player looks amazing on stage. This is an app that you install on a physical iPhone or a physical Android device, and they just came out with this for Visual Studio and also for Visual Studio for Mac. And you have to enable it. You go into Tools, Options, you enable it, and then you install the app on your physical device, and there's a pairing process, and you pair it. And then when you make changes, and it works especially well for Xamarin Forms, when you make changes to your Xamarin Forms code or your iOS code or your Android code that doesn't use XML files, then you can see your changes happen almost instantaneously. You change the code, and it just changes right there on your device instantly, and that's a really cool feature. Unfortunately, it's in beta, and I could only get it to work in a very limited environment. So it looks great during a demo. It looks great on stage. Hopefully we see a lot of innovation in that area, and it becomes a pretty fantastic feature, and it works as great as it looks on stage. By the way, I have this little weird thing that happens sometimes where Visual Studio will just freeze, and you have to like double click on it a couple times, and then you go into your toolbar, and there's this Microsoft Visual Studio delay notification, and you right click on it, and then it just magically like fixes itself. It's a weird bug, but yeah, there you go. I'm not seeing a navigation controller. Are you? Now we did, in our menu view controller, we did instantiate the standard calculator navigation view controller, right? Yes. Yes, we did. And just set a breakpoint there. Actually, let's find all usages of the standard calculator view controller. There should be only one. In the root view controller? Oh. In the view to load for the root view controller, sidebar controller. I guess there were two places we were using it. Okay. All right. So looks like we were passing in the initial page to load, and it was not the new Xamarin.Forms navigation controller, which explains why we weren't seeing a title area. And we'll see a title area now. Oh yes, we will. And in the 10 minutes remaining. Good. Okay. Yes, standard, it says right there. That's good. Now we're not seeing the right hand item, and that might be because I didn't do something right, but at least we got the standard. And I can't remember if you just always have to add 40 pixels. There's probably a cleaner way to do this, but for right now I'm just going to add an extra 40 pixels to get it to show below the status bar area. Well, maybe we don't push view controller, maybe we view controllers, add child view controller, adds UI view controller as a child. Pop to root view. No, I'm sure that's what it is. You push view controller. There's a cleaner way to do this, and I'm not going to look it up right now because I can't remember what it is. Oops, don't decompile. Instead, we'll just say when we instantiate our standard view controller, we want everything starting at the frame.top plus 80. It's not the right way to do it, but it's good enough. Okay. More importantly, why did the set right bar button item not work? Right bar button item. View did load. We instantiated it with a title, okay, and an action and a selector. That'll make sense. And then they, yep, okay. A lot of stuff is in it, and the view loading. Try adding the button to the navigation item of the view controller that's going to be pushed. Oh, okay, we can try it that way. So in our main view controller, oh, that's interesting. That navigation, that right bar button item. We could try that. It doesn't seem quite right. Navigation item dot right bar button item equals, well, let's just try setting it. You know, I think I remember this being a little, I've done this before and I remember it being a little finicky, but let's just try that real quick. And while that's running, we can just double check the Xamarin. This is how I usually do searches in this kind of a environment. Xamarin UI controller. What was it called? Menu nav item, navigation item, right bar button item. Let's just do right bar button item. And sometimes Xamarin has these really nice little recipes. And the recipes are super handy. They'll show you exactly how to do it. And that might be what this is. Or not. Okay, a memory leak. Oh, okay. They did it here too. Navigation item. They did it in the root controller. That's fine. They didn't do it in the. They didn't do it in the UI. In the UI navigation controller. Window.root view controller is U. Okay. Okay. We will do that there. Here we go again. Okay. Gonna mash on the button. I'm gonna right click over here and boom, everything's just gonna work. Is that not the weirdest bug ever? Oh. How many times do I need to do it? Oops. What was that? That might have been a mistake. No, I don't want Team Explorer. Okay, so what that article was saying was that, okay, what that article was saying was that I really should probably not do all this here. In fact, it was saying don't even subclass the UI navigation controller. But we've already done it. Display label. Is there someone else doing view.frame.top? No? Oh, everyone else is going based on the bottom of the frame? That's weird. All right. Let's not worry about that yet. What we do need is in the view did load, we set the title, and here is where we needed to create a new UI bar button item, navigation. Oh, and that just works there. According to this blog post, yes, the navigation item, you need to be setting the right bar button item from the, in our case, the standard calculator view controller, not the navigation controller. All right. And with any luck, this will launch quickly, and I won't have this weird bug with Visual Studio again. Oh, there it is. And sometimes being a developer involves some really weird stuff. Oh, look at that. There we go. That's way better than having it be on the CE. Okay, we're really close now. So let's just, we don't want dot action. Add action, bookmarks, camera, cancel, compose, done. Edit, fast forward, flash, rewind, save, search, stop, trash, undo, play, pause, page curl. UI bar button, system item. I don't know, maybe action's good enough. All right, we need to do something when someone clicks that, so dot. Let's see, it wants an action. Is that really an action? It's a UI bar button item dot action. Maybe there's an overload. An overload event handler. On menu click, create method on menu click, and we need this to be the same thing that we did for the button CE dot, wasn't it? Button CE, yeah, dot touch up inside. And so, whoops, I'm spending too much time on iOS read. So I tried to F12, I tried to Control D into it, which is what the Xamarin Studio, Visual Studio for Mac is. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do there. And so in our UI bar button item, the parameter for what to do when you click it is this method here. And the only other thing that we really ought to do in order to call this done, because it's now 10 o'clock and I should be done for the night, is UI navigation controller under our view controller is appearing under the UI navigation controller, under the navigation, something like that. And there's just a property you need to set. I forget what it's called. Navigation is not appearing. No. We don't care about that. Present modal. No, we don't want to present modal. How to make UI title bar upon view without the navigation controller. Set navigation bar hidden. Alright, we may just have to give up on that for tonight. I'm going to hit F5. We're going to see. I'm not going to give up on it. I can't. There actually is a. Do you guys use Instapaper? actually have a blog post in my Instapaper, which I know. Auto update for you to quick start, Xamarin.iOS garbage collector, iOS core, Half-Life, Visual Studio, Technical Debt, TDD, .NET Standard, 3D printing filament. Okay, hang on. Wait for it. Custom interactions with the design library, property animation. Navigation controller. I have an article in here. Oh, automatically adjust scroll insets. That's it. Okay, I will add this to the show notes. It looks like Visual Studio has gone in. What? Nope. Oh, deploy. So automatically adjust scroll view insets. Expanded layout includes opaque bars and edges for extended layout. Here you are not setting the value of. Therefore, the default value is taken. There. You see how this one is tinted red a little bit? That's because that's the iOS standard where it appears underneath and it has like a little bit of opaqueness, but we don't want that. So the solution here is to set UI rect edges none. And UI view controller edges for extended layout. That's going to solve our problem. All right, I'm going to be about 10 minutes over tonight, maybe 5. Depends on how long this takes to launch. Come on. Finish launching. And we're going to do that in the view to load. Woohoo! That's the wrong icon. We can worry about that another time. But I got to do this. Got to do this. Oops. Where was it? Edges for extended layout equals none. And I believe, I'm nearly 100% positive that that will solve our problem, and then we can put this back to 40 and launch that, call it done, and I will commit this. Adds a navigation controller and a button to open the navigation drawer. That launched quickly this time. Isn't that nice? Yeah, there we go. That looks pretty good, right? Looks pretty good. I like it. Now, of course, we've got to solve the problem of how to get it back open again, but it'll be fun to compare for a future episode how Xamarin.Forms does navigation and how it does the equivalent of a UI navigation control, because we'll want that. All right, let's just finish this up. We're going to review what we did. So we instantiated our new UI view controller. We created a UI view controller here, and we probably didn't need to do it. I don't think navigation bar hidden.false is necessary strictly, and on view to load we popped some stuff into it. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but it's good enough for now. We gave a title to the old view controller. We set the right bar item equal to the an action. That was where we got the icon from. We told it on menu click. On menu click, we then toggled the menu. We removed the old code to do that on the CE button because that never really made any sense to begin with. And on our root view controller, when we were instantiating the initial thing to load, we told it to load the standard calculator navigation view controller. So there we go. Good stuff. I think I'll call this a successful episode. One of the most successful episodes. Really, very little went wrong. That is a rare and wonderful thing when very little goes wrong. So thanks for watching tonight. I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you again next week, same bat time, same bat channel. This is the Xamarin Code Hour, and again, if you have the opportunity to subscribe via the YouTube channel, that helps me out a lot. I do appreciate it, and have a wonderful week.